It is wonderful to be here. I appreciate the elders and deacons and mission committee invited me to be here. And before I begin, I want to start with the most important thing, and that is thank you so much for what you do, how you help. And when I say we could not do it without you, that's not just speak, that's truth. We could not do it without you and so many other helpers that have enabled this to be done. So feel good about it. You did this. You are as much a part of this as I am, and anybody that's involved in this. Without you, it could not get done. So thank you so much for what you do. And I'm glad, and I know that you're glad, that Keith didn't come this year. I'm much better looking than he is. And make sure next time he comes, you tell him that. That would make me happy. Keith and I, he's one of my best friends. We have a great working relationship. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that Bear Valley has been doing. I know a lot of you, as Keith has been coming here, has made some parts of this presentation. But just in case that there are some who don't know about Bear Valley, don't know exactly what we're going to do, I'm going to spend the first few minutes telling you and explaining our model, why we do it the way that we do it. And then I've got some pictures, I've got some stories, and I'm glad the children are sitting up here, the young people are sitting up close. There's one story I promise you that they're going to like. So we'll get to it. And our motto at the Bear Valley, both at the school in Denver and also our international program, is 2 Timothy 2:2, where Paul says to Timothy, "The things that you've heard of me from many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who may be able to teach others also." That's what our goal is, to train the locals to teach other natives the way of salvation. This is the traditional mission method. And let me just say this at the very beginning. I have been involved in mission work before I was actually a preacher. I was a young person who had no business going on a mission trip, who a great missionary encouraged me to go. My dad wrote 2 lessons for me, and I went over there as a young man and preached those 2 lessons that my dad wrote for me. And everybody else could have done a much better job than I did. But it stuck with me, and that was to Russia, not too long after the Iron Curtain fell, to where I just fell in love with mission work, the meeting people and seeing how receptive people are to the gospel. So let me just say this up front. That missionary who invited me over there, our congregation was supporting him at that time, he went and did 5 years over in Russia. After the Iron Curtain fell, he moved over there with his wife and his 3 children, and I admire him for that. And so listen very carefully when I say, we are not knocking other mission works. We're not here to compete. We're not here to say the way we do it is the only way to do it, and there's no other way to do it. There's no competition in lighthouses. You've heard that said before, and that's the truth. But I want to show you why we do it the way we do it, how we do it, the reasoning behind it, and hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense to you. But here's a traditional mission method. This is how it's been done in the Lord's church for many, many years now. And again, this works. Send one missionary to a foreign land. And if that missionary has 3 studies per week, in 1 year, he'll have 156 Bible studies with potential converts. And so if he stays there for 10 years, which unfortunately that is the exception rather than the rule, but if he stayed there for 10 years, at the end of those 10 years, 1,560 Bible studies. I'm not going to knock that. That's 1,560 people who learned the gospel of Christ. I am not knocking that at all. But let me show you our method, the preacher training method, and why we do it the way that we do it. The preacher training method is, and this is not exactly right, and I'll explain it to you why. But let's just say 0 to 2 years. Okay, that's why we start a school. Let's just say in that school we have 10 students. And we'll pretend that during those 2 years they have no Bible studies. That's not true. That's part of their education. But let's just, for argument's sake, all right, they're in school for 2 years, and so those 10 students, as they're in school for 10 years or for 2 years, have no studies. All right, but year 3 and 4, 2-year school, they've graduated, and now those 10 students all go out back to their home villages, back in their own culture, back in their own nation, and each of those students have 3 Bible studies a week. From 2 years of training, what do we already have in years 3 and 4? 1,560 studies each year. And after they graduate, guess what we get back in? 10 new students. And that's on the low side, a minimum of 10. We usually have about 20 in a class. But let's just say for argument's sake, we just got 10 just to keep easier numbers. I need all the help I can get. So 3 to 4 years, 1,560. Years 5 and 6, now we've got 2 graduating classes. And now what do we have? 3,120 studies each year. And you can go ahead and do the math yourself. At the end of those 10 years, comparing it to that one missionary who stayed there for 10 years, we had 1,560. At the end of 10 years now, doing it this way, 6,000 versus years 9 and 10, 6,240 studies each year, which is a total of 18,500 studies. And at the end of year 11, we now have 50 graduates of the school, all in the same amount of time, 10 years. But look what's happening. Rather than adding, we're multiplying. And that's why we do what we do. And that's the method that we use. Here's the curriculum that we go by, and we're strict about this. I can tell you a little story, and I will at the end of this. 48 courses in a 2-year school or a 4-year school. We have some part-time, but 48 courses, 30 hours in the classroom per course. That's a minimum, at least 30 hours. You're usually closer to around 35 hours, but the minimum is 30 hours per course. 1,440 hours in the classroom, these students in a 2-year school will spend learning the Bible. And then here's the thing, 1,500 hours outside of the classroom. Remember what I said on that last slide? Let's just pretend that while they're in school, they're not doing any studies. This is what they're actually doing. So they have 1,440 hours in the classroom. Outside, 1,500 hours outside of the classroom. That's in evangelistic campaigns, going around and teaching, learning how to conduct a campaign, preaching gospel meetings, and they do this on a constant basis. And you can tell they do because there's 1,500 hours at the end of 2 years that is spent doing this practical evangelism experience. And the director and the staff, the teachers, they are with these students and they go out and conduct these campaigns. So that's the curriculum. This is not just a Sunday morning Bible school. As important as Sunday morning Bible school is, we have standards. This is a preacher training school. Let me show you this next slide. I'm not going to go through all of those, but those are the classes that they will take in a 2-year session at one of our Bear Valley schools. All of the curriculum is the same in every school. As I said, we do have some part-time schools that meet only on Saturday, but they meet all day on Saturday. They have full-time jobs Monday through Friday. All day Saturday they spend in the classroom, and on Sunday they go back to their respective congregations, and most of them preach in their local congregations. It takes them 4 years to do it. They do one of these subjects each month, and it's around the clock the whole year. Busy, busy, busy students. And look at some of those Greek, homiletics. There's some good ones in there, and they do an outstanding job for the most part. Just to show you the growth that we've been experiencing with this in just the past few years. In 2014, we had 17 schools in 14 countries with 301 students and then 1,996 baptisms. Let me explain that number, that 1,996 baptisms. That's just the students while they're in school. That campaign work I was telling you about, the seminars that they do, that's just the students' conversions of the people. So the students in 2014 converted around 2,000 people while they were in school. That's not including the graduates who've already graduated. That's just the students for their time in school. Well, now fast forward to 2021, 48 schools now in 27 countries, 900 plus students with 3,426 baptisms in just that 1 year. And that, again, let me reiterate, that's just the students while they're in school learning how to be effective evangelists. I think they're learning, don't you? Currently, and Glenn tried to steal my thunder, we have 54 schools in 28 countries as we stand right now. That will go up probably by the end of this month or maybe the beginning of next month. 54 schools in 28 countries. You know, when I first heard about Bear Valley, and I won't take the time, I've told some of you this story already. I learned about Bear Valley by necessity. I was doing mission work in Kenya, and we had converted a lot of people, and a lot of preachers from denominations were taught. And we said, we can't just leave them over there. We have to train these men more. And so we were desperate. The congregation where I was, the elders and I met constantly. We called missionaries in. What can we do? And we came in contact with Bear Valley, who this is what they do. And we had the funding, but we had no idea how to get it started. Well, Bear Valley had already been doing it for several years. And so that's how I came in contact with Bear Valley. They started a school in Kisumu, Kenya, where we had been working, and we fell in love with them. But one of my questions was, how in the world do you keep track, especially now with this growth, 54 schools in 28 countries? How do you keep track of that? Well, this next slide, this is the first time I've ever explained it like this, but hopefully you'll get to see the bigger picture. How we make it work, that's a lot, 54 schools. You know, you've got Keith as the director, myself as his assistant. How do we keep track of the things that go on in all of those schools? And I think that's a great question and a fair question. This is how it works. This is the whole program. You have the Denver School in Denver, Colorado, of course. You've got the Bear Valley School of Preaching there in Denver. That is overseen by the Bear Valley Church of Christ, as is the international program. The director, that should say, is Denny Petrello. He's the director of that school. And every new school that we want to develop, that we want to begin, we send a proposal to Denny. Denny takes it to the elders, makes the presentation to them, and they either approve or disapprove that new school. I don't know that they've ever disapproved one. You know, if we've done the due diligence, they just want to make sure that it's ready to go. So that's that. Then you have the international director, Keith Kasarjan, and the assistant, me. Since 2021, I began working with Bear Valley in 2012 with that school in Kisumu. But I've been in this role since 2021. As a matter of fact, this is my first presentation in this new role. So if I do bad, don't tell Keith. Everybody just tell him I did great. So began in this role in 2021, and you can see why with the growth, Keith needed more help. But here's how we do it. Each school has an American coordinator, and we require that coordinator, if at all possible, to visit his school at least once per year. Before I am what I am now, I was the regional coordinator for our Asia schools. And I would visit, as part of my role as a coordinator, visit each of those schools on a yearly basis, at least once a year. Keith and I arrange our schedules and also visit these schools. One of the things that Keith has started doing a couple of years ago, and this has been a lot of fun, we make surprise visits, which is not the easiest thing to do in a foreign country. But we worked it out. We'll make surprise visits. We'll just walk into the school. They have no idea we're coming, and just show up. And boy, are they ever surprised to see us. But the reason we do that, we want to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're meeting the required hours, and everything is going. We want to make sure that the work is carrying on. But you can only do that, like if you go to Africa, only one school, be surprised. By the time you got to the second school, everybody in Africa knows that you're there. So you only got one shot at each continent, really. But so Keith and I arrange our schedules. We also visit these schools. So you've got the American coordinator who visits once a year. Keith and I once every 2 years at least, but we usually can do better than that. Then we have a local director, a native director, someone who is from there, who is native, and that director has to send Keith and I a monthly report. I'm going to give you a website at the end. We post these on a regular basis on the Bear Valley website, so you can actually read these reports. So they have to report to us. The local teachers, you've got natives teaching natives. And then another thing we do is we send short course teachers over who also teach in the school. And so it's not like we just say, hey, you want a school? Start it. We'll see you. Let us know if you need anything else. No. We are as hands-on as we can be to make sure that the work is being conducted. I will tell you this. Keith has made several of these surprise visits now, and only one time did it not go perfectly. He showed up at a school and no one was there. That's a problem. They should have been in school on that day. Well, what happened was there was a gardener there or something. They found out, where is everybody? And they said, well, they had a test today. They finished their test and they wanted to spend the rest of the day evangelizing, which sounds great, but they left 2 hours early and that was only going to give them 28 hours of coursework. Keith, he's mean, made them make that up, even though they were out evangelizing. And they learned a lesson there. 30 hours means 30 hours. And that's the worst problem we've had so far. And these people are doing the work, and they're doing it in a great, great way. All right, let me tell you now, hopefully you understand what we do and why we do it the way that we do. Let me go to Zambia. You all support a school in Zambia, but before I get to that school, let me tell you about this one. We have a part-time school in Lusaka. That's the capital of Zambia. It's a big, big city. You see children all around in these third world countries, and they'll have their hands out and they want money. And I used to just give them coins every chance I got, who can turn down a child, until I found out that a lot of these children are being employed by people who are up to no good. We'll send these kids out, make them do the begging, and then they'll take all the money. And so I've gotten a little bit more careful on this. But this picture here, these children were asking for money, and I just didn't have any way to verify. And so I asked them, are you hungry? And they said yes. And so we took them into this store and let them choose anything they wanted, as much as they wanted, and a drink. And I don't know what these things are right here, but that's what each of them got, and they were thrilled to get it. They got that, and I think one got an orange pop and one got a lemonade, and they were thrilled. But you see those kind of things all over. But Lusaka, this is the seminar Lusaka we held. They wanted a leadership seminar and a marriage seminar all in one day. So we accommodated them. That man that you see up there is Norman Light. He's one of my best friends in the world. He's also one of the elders where I preach. I've been preaching there since 1995 with a couple other stops in other places. But for the most part, been at Town Acres since 1995. And Norman has been going on about a trip a year with me for several years. And he believes in this work. And so we held this seminar, and he is actually there teaching on the life of Joseph, what we can learn about leadership from Joseph. And then here's Luansha. This is the school that you all support. This man here is Fred, right there. That's a good Zambian name, isn't it? Fred. And then over here you have Cephas. And then there's Norman there, and there's Goofy me in the middle. But here's the story I wanted to tell you. Take a look at Cephas there. He's, like I said, he's the one on the far right of the picture. And let me just say, I've only seen a couple snakes when I've been in these places. So don't let that scare you. And they were always on the road when I was in the car. I've never seen a snake where I was afraid of what could happen. So let me just preface this story by that. Cephas, on the other hand, he's a farmer by trade. He's also been educated, and he's one of the instructors, and just an outstanding, he's co-director of the school in Luantia. But he takes care of the garden, and they used to have some chickens. Let me tell you this before I tell you that story. Each of these schools, we support these students when they come to these schools for the 2 years that they're in school. We give them a stipend. It's different locations, but we give them a stipend while they're in school. Most of the time they send it back to their families. But they get a stipend. However, we promise no support once they graduate. We tell them that on day one. You come to this school, it's not just to make money for the rest of your life. The day you graduate, your support. And that sounds harsh, but we want to make sure that people who come to the school are coming to the school because they want to learn to be gospel preachers. But what we do is, in most of our schools, we teach them a trade. We teach them a trade. And in Luantia, it was chicken farming for both the eggs and for meat production. And it went well for a while, but they had some disease problems, and now they have no chickens. And the reason was, I asked Cephas why that is. He said, because we ate them. And, you know, it's easy for us to sit there and say, well, how in the world could you eat them? Can't you think of the future and what the purpose of all of this is? And that's easy to say when our freezers are full and our refrigerators are full. But let me tell you something. If they were empty and my family hadn't eaten, it would be tempting to kill the chickens, wouldn't it? But Cephas now has been trained a little bit better. He went to Zimbabwe and was educated in this, and so they're going to get more chickens. But the point is, we train in each of these schools. In India, we teach them to be tailors, to make clothes and things like that. We give them a sewing machine at the end of their 2 years. Here, they're learning chicken farming. Nepal, it was goat farming. We try to give them a trade whereby they can support themselves once they graduate school. All right, back to Cephas. The reason I got onto that was because he takes care of the garden, takes care of the chickens, and we asked him about, are there any mambas around here? He said, oh, not bad ones. I said, are there any good mambas? And he said, well, you've got the green mamba, and that's what I've killed around here. You said, around here? He said, yeah, they come in here quite a bit, and he'll kill the green mambas. They're just a little poisonous, he said. But the black mamba is one of the deadliest snakes in the world. And the bad thing about the black mamba is they call it the two-stepper. And I think they exaggerate a little bit, but not by much. But the idea is it bites you, and 2 steps later, you're gone. The black mamba is one of the most aggressive snakes in all of the world. It will chase you. And now listen, I've never seen a black mamba in all the times I've been in Africa, except one time I went to a zoo and I saw a black mamba there in a cage. So don't let that scare you from ever going. But Cephas was riding his bike from one village to the next, and there was a shortcut that went through a field, and it was probably a path about this wide, and it went through this sugarcane field. And he got into this town, and the people of that town said, don't take the shortcut. It was going to cut quite a bit of time off of his route. But they said, don't take the shortcut. There's black mamba there, and he's already killed 2 people. Cephas said, I was feeling too lazy that day, and I went ahead and took the shortcut. Cephas was riding, and as he was riding, he said, I was going very fast, and he ran over what he thought was an inner tube. He looks behind him to see what he hit, and here comes this black mamba chasing him on his bicycle, and not just chasing him, but catching up to him. And so he knew he was in trouble. But listen to this, kids. He remembered what his dad taught him when he was a little child, and he goes, and why it clicked into my mind, I hadn't thought of it since the day he told me, but it clicked in my mind, the only way that you can stop a black mamba is to stop, turn around, and face it. So he's on this bicycle, sees his black mama is gaining on him, throws his bike to the side, and stops, and he turns around, he puts his hands above his head, and he starts yelling at this black mamba. And the black mamba stopped. And it stands up on its tail. He says it's taller than me at this point when it's standing up on its tail. And he said it just kind of went back and forth and looked at me. And then finally it went down and it went back into the sugarcane field. Let me tell you something. I've been preaching for a lot of years, and I've never had anything like that happen to me. But I don't live in some of these places. When they go out on these campaigns, when they do the work that they do, I wish you could see the places they stay, the things they eat, the conditions they live in, and some of these types of encounters that they encounter along the way. Tell you something, we are a blessed people. And thank God that these people are willing to do everything that they do for the cause of Christ. These are the people you support. And boy, they're doing a great job. They've got a graduation coming up in October. 10 students are going to graduate. I was there recently, and it's where I took this picture, and taught the book of Romans, which was a difficult study, but they did really, really well. And you know what? It always seems that in each class that I teach, there's always one that struggles, one or two that kind of struggle. But I wish you could see the way the other students help the struggling one. But they just work together, and they form a bond. These students, when they graduate, they don't forget each other. They help each other. They'll have campaigns in each other's place, throughout the year, and they continue to work together. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I'm not going to go talk much about these. I had not yet been to this school, but Keith went not too long ago. This is one of our newer schools in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Do this in your own time. Don't do it now, please. You'll hurt my feelings. But do this on your own time. Go and check by the year 2100 what's going to be the most populated cities in the world. By the year 2100, so a little over 75 years, Dar es Salaam, and it depends on which one you look at, is either going to be number 1 or number 2. What's happening is all of these people are moving from the countries to these cities. And these cities are expanding and expanding and expanding. Dar es Salaam, by the year 2100, is purported to be the largest city in the world. And we didn't have a preaching school there. Do you think a city that's going to be the largest city in 75 years needs as many preachers in that area as you can possibly get to be ready for the influx of souls coming to that area? So we started a school there. 39 students. We have a full-time and part-time school there. Here's some of the students. Look how packed they are. Here's an outdoor class. This is the conditions that they work under. The second largest city, or the first, depending on which model, either 1 or 2, is going to be here in Nigeria. Lagos, right here in Nigeria. It's already huge, and it's just going to increase. By the year 2100, again, depending on which model, I've seen 2, it's either going to be number 1 or number 2, the biggest city in the world. And so we have several schools in this area. We also have another one that we just started here in Nigeria. I just want to show you these pictures and go through them. You might see some young ladies there. We do allow some women to take classes, of course, not training them to be preachers, but to be Bible students. Some of these are the preachers' wives who enroll in the school. We try to keep that at a minimum less than 10% of the overall student population, because we want to keep our, not that there's anything wrong with as many women as you can get to come and learn, but we want to try to keep our focus in training preachers. And it's not good for morale, because almost always the women do better than the men in the classes. That's not really why we try to keep it low, but it is the truth. They always do better than the preachers. And they do tutor the students as well. This is one of the schools that I'm coordinator of, Tirupati, India. I want to show you something that I think is fascinating about this place. This school was started a few years ago. Here's what's interesting about this. This is the most visited temple, Hindu temple, in the world. And not just Hindu, the most visited temple in the world. This is the temple that has 60,000 visitors a day. 75,000 to 100,000 on New Year's Day and other holy days. And if you've ever been to India, about every other week they have a holy day or a holy week. And so you're probably talking about closer to 100,000 on a regular basis. This temple has an annual budget of $52 million, that's US dollars, a year. And then there's the source for it. This is where we have a preaching school, right in the middle of the most Hindu place of the Hindus. And we're training people about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Here are the students as well as the director and staff. Here's Uganda. I'm going to be going there, Lord willing, in October. This is one of the newer schools as well. Keith has been there. I believe we've got 10 students at this school. 2 of those are, one's the director and one's the instructor. Can you tell which one's Keith? I have to look real close. Take a look at that building behind you. That's where the school meets. Kind of dark in there, isn't it? Nigeria, another one. I'm running low on time, so let me just show you this. Nigeria, we've got so many schools. We can have a lot more schools, and that's what we're working towards, getting funding for those schools to open them up. It's just impossible to really grasp the size of population in these cities. It's just a mass of humanity, and they need the gospel. Nairobi and Mombasa, Kenya. Another one in Nigeria. How happy they are. Again, can you find Swami Keith in that picture? Here's the newest schools. We have Luzon, Philippines. I'm, Lord willing, going to be going there in September. We started out with a lot of students. And we tell them, we try to keep it around 20, no more than 20. Try to keep control of the classroom. And plus, some of the places where we meet can't handle much more than 20. But this school had 60 people show up for the first day. After the first test, we were down to where we needed to be. This is not just an easy Bible school. It kind of weeds out the ones that, can do great work for the Lord, but maybe just not graduate from the preaching school. Another one in Nigeria. This is my contact information. Once somebody pointed out to me that looks like wet rain preachers. I've never been able not to see it. We train preachers, not wet rain preachers. And if you go to that website, wetrainpreachers.com, or you can go to the Bear Valley Bible Institute, go down to the page where it says International Schools, and you can click on there and read those reports. Let me ask you to do that. And if I need to beg, let me beg you to do that. If you're having a bad day, go to that website and start reading some of those reports. And you will be thrilled to see the work that's being done. And you'll be thrilled to know that you're helping make it happen. And you really are. You're helping make that happen. Let me close with this. And I know you would expect me to love Bear Valley since I work with Bear Valley. But let me tell you something I did not expect. This Bear Valley team, and that includes you, but Keith and I and Denny and the other coordinators, the native directors, the native staff, and all the way down to the cook who cooks for the students and cleans for the students. You hear that phrase, we are one big happy family. But let me tell you something. In this case, it really is. Everybody wants everybody else to do better than they're doing. They want them to be successful. They want their school to be great. There's no competition in the way people work together. And let me tell you, and Sean, where is Sean? There he is. You're going to appreciate this. These native preachers, when I started this work, Sean might like this or he might hate me after this. I don't know. We'll see. When we started this work and I began to be involved with this, I didn't know the impact it was going to have on myself personally. Some of my biggest heroes are people the brotherhood will never hear of. These preachers, these directors, these students, in these remote places on this earth, you and I will never know. But the things that they are doing are going to be responsible for thousands and thousands, millions of people being in heaven someday. The average Indian preacher, this is the part Sean might not like. I don't know about you, Sean, but the end of Sunday, I don't know what it is, but I am exhausted. And it's just standing up here, you would think, but at the end of a Sunday, I also farm some, and I can farm before the sun comes up and till the sun goes down and not be as tired as I am on Sunday evening when the day is done. And I don't know what it is, but I think a lot of preachers have that. But let me tell you this, the average Indian preacher preaches for an average of 3 congregations. They start their day preaching at one for a few hours, get on their bike, go to another one for a few hours, get on their bike, go to another one for a few hours, and then get back after dark. I want to share a pet peeve and then I'm done. You hear things like this sometimes by people who want to make sure the money is being spent well, and I understand that and I appreciate that. But sometimes they'll use this phrase, rice Christians. Have you ever heard that? Rice Christians? In other words, these people are only obeying the gospel, or these students are only want to become preachers in that school because of what they can get out of it. That's what they call rice Christians. And I'm not going to be naive to think that doesn't ever happen. But I will tell you this. You make one trip with me. Spend some time with these people. See what they go through to do what they do. How hard they work. And the work after they graduate, receiving zero support from us. You come and then tell me what you think after that. Brethren, these people are my heroes. These people are my heroes. And I get to work with them on a regular basis. Thank you so much for what you do. Please pray. Please pray. It's a big task, but it's a wonderful task. We need your prayers. Please pray that the work continues and that all of these schools, especially during this difficult time, you know, when we talk about a recession, we talk about inflation here, that's not just here, it's there as well. And they're feeling it. Pray for them. They need your prayers. Anytime we come together as a people, we hate to let a time go by to where we don't offer an opportunity for a soul who might be here tonight that has not yet yielded their life to Jesus to do that. We're all together. And when you come up out of the water, you're going to have a family that is ready to greet you and love you and walk with you for the rest of your Christian life. If you've never obeyed the gospel, but you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and you're ready to repent of your sins, confess your faith in Him, and be baptized into Him so that your sins can be washed away, you can do that tonight. Sean preached a powerful lesson this morning about the Jesus we need. And we need Him. So if you're ready to obey the gospel, you can do that. Or while we're here together and there's one of us that's hurting, we hate to let this opportunity go by without allowing us to pray with you and for you. We'd be glad to do that. If you'll make that need known, you can come up and have you have a song to sing. You can come up and have a seat on one of these front pews, and I'm sure someone will come up here and take care of your needs while together we stand and sing.